Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is real, and oh my goodness, that feels so good to say. It honestly feels like some kind of a dream come true. But you know what that means? We've got some analyzing to do. Also, anything I say is just pure speculation, so please take my small theories with a grain of salt. Just feel like I need to throw that out there. The trailer opens with a black-haired man playing the flute. Many people think this could be an older Rex from Xenoblade 2, and I don't blame them. He sounds a lot like Al Weaver, but this could just be the new protagonist. Either way, I really dig the ponytail. Alternatively, the narration might be from an older Rex, but more on that later. Then we're treated with a really nice crossfade into a sweeping shot that kind of mirrors the Battle of Sword Valley. The soldiers kind of look like they're from Xenoblade 1, with blade weapons and blasters reminiscent of Xenoblade X. The massive Titan machine looks a lot like a face mechon, specifically Zord. This might be a new thing called a Titan Buster, or it could mark the return of the mechon. Also, Titan Buster is just a thing that I thought up on the spot, don't think it was confirmed or anything, because I don't believe it was. The next shot has the new protagonist fighting someone using a special red sword that isn't the Monado or Pyra's sword. Again, this isn't actually Rex for a few reasons now. This new guy has a mark on his right hand, which Rex never had as far as we know, along with his blue eyes and black hair, unlike Rex's golden eyes and brown hair. Also, his name was confirmed to be Noah. Noah is actually fighting a Gormati girl named Mio who might actually be related to Nia. She's got a similar color palette to her blade form, and a core crystal can be seen on her chest. What's interesting about her core crystal is that it looks like it's a flesh eater core crystal. She also uses the chakram rings, which is Nia's trademark weapon in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Alternatively, these look like advanced versions of Nia's chakrams and the Monado Rex, so these might actually be the descendants of the main characters. During this fight, another guy comes in to save Noah. At a glance, this guy looks like an Indoline survivor, but it probably isn't because the ears aren't pointy enough. This character looks like they're using some kind of a shield sword thing similar to Ryan's weapon. It also looks like it was pulled straight out of Monster Hunter. The dialogue says, "I refuse to believe you're him." So maybe this person is referring to Rex or a previous hero. Who knows? Another person comes in using a shield hammer, probably siding with Mio. What's interesting about this character is that they might actually be a blade. You don't get a frontal view of the character in the trailer, but what you can see is the ether lines on their arms, exactly like a blade. Chances are if they have a core crystal, it's probably on their chest or underneath their hair on their forehead, similar to Jin. If I had to guess, this fight probably happens at the beginning of the story just to establish the characters. Previous Xenoblade games have done that in the past, after all. The next shot moves to someone who looks and sounds almost identical to Vandham. However, I don't think this is the real Vandham, maybe from another timeline or something, since in Xenoblade 2, Vandham gets killed by Malos. If this deals with another timeline, we could be looking at an older Vandham who now wears an eye patch and sports a full beard. Either that, or this is Vandham's descendant who is the spitting image of his ancestor, voice scars and all. Also, this is one of the very few times that we see a Xenoblade character with a full beard, so that's a plus. What's really interesting is what he says. You're not enemies now. Given the lighting and the scenery of this place, I think this is a point in the story when all the characters meet and team up. Also, for a split second you can see his full eye patch, and what's interesting is the little design on it. My best guess is that it's an insignia from wherever the new Vandham is from. The next thing we see is a group of people playing the flute, with the main focus being on a blonde girl in the front. The same scene gives us a closer look at the girl, letting us see that she also has one of those special marks, except instead of Noah, hers is on her left hand. The immediate follow-up shot has Mio and Noah playing the flute as well. It's pretty clear at this point that the flutes are going to be an important item in the game, similar to something like Ocarina of Time in the Ocarina. There's a conversation in the background of this which is also really interesting. You could try to move forwards again. The fact that these characters sound and look a lot like Nia and Rex makes me kind of believe that the Gormati girl needs some convincing to go off and do whatever's happening in the story. There's probably going to be an underlying story about self-acceptance again. The following shots have a lot going on, so I'll go through these the best that I can. There seems to be another battle between two characters that know each other. The girl in this shot is important because she has wings on her head, so she must be a high Entia. It's also worth noting that she might be a half Entia since her wings are small, similar to Melia's. Either that or she's just really young and haven't completely developed yet. Also, I noticed that she has the same mark as Noah at the beginning of the trailer, except her mark is on her chest. More on that later. Whoever this girl is fighting is also having an argument of ideology, at least that's what it sounds like. What's interesting is that the guy says, "They're not your friends anymore, they're his fuel." This got me thinking that if characters from previous games are coming back, some of them might be manipulated or mind controlled into turning against their friends and comrades. It could honestly really set up for some interesting dynamics and antagonists. The next set of shots is your classic compilation of Xenoblade areas. The first area is a grassy field with a large rock spire. It kinda reminds me of the Bionis Shoulder, specifically near the High Entia refugee camp. It's probably not, and it could just be an all-new area, but it's probably one of the first areas of the game. Next, we've got a much better view of another area which looks like an amalgamation of places. There's some grassy fields in the middle. At the top, we've got some snowy mountains reminiscent of Valak Mountain and Tantal, and there's also a transition at the bottom from grassy field to desert wasteland. Our main character is walking on top of a really specific platform which looks nearly identical to the top of the Fallen Arm's distant fingertip in Xenoblade 1. We get a bit more exposition about the world from Vandham, accompanied by a shot of the Mechonis sword and the fallen arm of the Mechonis. This actually makes sense and kinda lines up with an earlier shot with a top platform. You can actually see the same platform if you look closely. Now the fallen arm basically looks like a wasteland, so maybe after however long it's been, the Machina from Xenoblade 1 have probably gone extinct by the time of Xenoblade 3. It's kinda sad to think about. The next shot gives us another quick glance at the big machine from the beginning of the trailer. Since it's got wheels, it looks like it can transform and might be used in a similar way that the skells were used in Xenoblade X. Either that or it's an explorable area, since the next shot does give us a second look at a mechanical setting, though I'm not entirely sure what this could be. We get more shots of landscapes, machines, and new creatures in the background. Each of these places look like locations and settings from previous games, Allrest, Mira, and Xenoblade 1's world respectively. During the compilation, one of the shots shows the characters controlling a boat, which basically confirms the return of vehicles in Xenoblade games. I've heard some people say this looks like Junks, so maybe it's a return of Junks, or maybe it's a new model, who knows. I just really love the visuals of this game already, and I know it's going to look amazing by the time of the release. They've got so much fine-tuning to do. We also get more story scenes, and of course the confirmation of Nopon, except for some reason these Nopon look a lot like Rex and Pyra. I saw that, so now you have to. Because of the zany designs of these Nopon, there's a chance that they might be playable party members, or they might just be important characters for the story later on. Who knows? A few more little things I want to note. Throughout the trailer you can see these little purple orbs on the ground. I'm guessing these are supposed to be collection points like in Xenoblade 2, or they could be proper item orbs from Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade X. You know, the kind that you just have to run up and pick up instead of pressing a little A prompt. Near the middle of the trailer, we can see a few shots with 4 party members at a time. The only other Xenoblade game that lets you have 4 party members at the same time is Xenoblade X, so this is really awesome. Especially since X wasn't really a mainline Xenoblade game. Something else I haven't really seen many people talk about is the improvement of enemy designs. Everything we've seen thus far looks really imposing, and while there are a bunch of new enemies that look straight out of Monster Hunter, we can still see some familiar foes such as the Toklios, the Quadwings, and the Flammy, just to name a few. Something else I want to bring up is that every time we've seen those big machines, they've always been presented as threats. My small prediction is that maybe these are bosses or unique monsters, or maybe you have to earn these special story machines by defeating them during story progression. That's a horrible way of explaining it, but I'm kinda having a hard time formulating my thoughts. There's 2 masked women at the end of the trailer, and it's pretty clear that these are meant to be Melia and Nia. The designs and voices are dead giveaways. The masks they're wearing, specifically Melia's, look really similar to the masks of the Bionite Order. Like what I was saying earlier, some of the returning characters are probably going to be turned against each other. The framing of these shots feels like a sinister reveal of sorts, but I'm really excited to see where this goes. Now earlier I mentioned some of the characters have these special marks somewhere on their body. While there isn't enough evidence for obvious reasons, I believe these are going to play a key role in the story somehow. Maybe they give the main character special powers, or it could be something entirely different yet equally intriguing. The final shot of the trailer gives us that classic cliff shot showing an old mossy Mechonis sword and the potential corpse of the Urian Titan. It's honestly a little haunting to look at, especially if you start thinking more about it. Of course, we also have the main characters playing the flutes as the text fades in, revealing that this is in fact Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The screen then fades to black, giving us the release month of September 2022. Honestly, there was so much to unpack in this trailer that I'm almost certain that I've missed a few things. If you spotted something that I didn't, please let me know in the comments. I could not be more ready for this game, and I've got my work cut out for me for the next several months now. Expect a lot of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 content in the future, and with that said, I've been your host, signing off.